What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another one of my videos, and today we're starting a brand new series. This one is who to sign for. So basically I'm going to be giving you signing suggestions for all 20 of the Premier League teams. When you start career mode, who should you buy? So I've made a list of about 7 or 8 players for each club, and I'll do them in separate videos so the videos won't be too long for you. And obviously we're going in alphabetical order, so the first team on our list is Arsenal. Now, Arsenal in real life obviously are doing a grand job. This is probably the team that they are going with at the moment. It seems to be how they're lining up on most times. So this is obviously what we've got to go with. So, I mean, you look at the starting 11 immediately and it looks pretty nice. Ramsdale in goal with Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba and White, as obviously with Partey just in front of them. And then you've got Xhaka and Odegaard. A slightly more advanced, and then a front three of Martinelli, Jesus and Saka is obviously how they're lining up at the moment, or it appears that way anyway. They've obviously made a few new signings as of recording this. Trossard is through the door. That's the main one, I think. I know there's also this Polish guy, I can't remember his name, forgive me, but this Polish guy I think is about to come through and sign for them. So yeah, this is a team we've got. So as you can see, obviously with the wink links early on, I don't think White is a weak link, but is he a natural right back? So I've added a couple of right backs to the list, not necessarily better than White, better rated than that, but certainly right backs that can do a job for you, maybe as a backup, or if you wanted to, you could just start them if you wanted straight off the bat. So I've added a couple of right backs as well. I've added a centre back. Saliba and Gabriel are probably a decent pairing. I mean, you don't really need to improve them, but if you wanted to shore up at the back, I don't really think Rob Holding is the next best centre back you really want on your bench. So I've added another one there if you wanted to buy one for security. Left back, I think I might have added a left back as well. Zinchenko is doing a grand job in real life. Not really sure if you need to improve there, but I've added one in case you do. Central midfield is obviously an option where you could improve. Partey, probably one of the best central defensive midfielders in the league, so maybe you don't want to improve there. But Xhaka, aging a little bit, what is he now? 29. Past his peak, probably is only going to start declining, so maybe if you wanted to buy a younger one for the future, because that seems to be the way this Arsenal team is going at the moment, building for the future, as well as obviously being top of the Premier League right now as it stands. Odegaard, I think if you start in Arsenal career mode, he is going to be there from start to finish. Look at him, he's 23 years old, 5-star skill moves, and he's 84 rated already. Captain, he's doing a magnificent job. I've got him in my fantasy team. He's just the linchpin of everything that goes right for Arsenal at the moment. So he's going to be a mainstay. Obviously Martinelli on the left, you probably don't want to improve him. Jesus up top as well, you could. But, well, when I say you could, I mean provide cover, so you could get someone in to replace Nketiah on the bench, and someone who could be an impact substitution if Jesus is getting tired towards the end of games. Saka as well, he's like Odegaard, you want to be keeping him in from start to finish. Ramsdale as well, I haven't put any goalkeepers on. Why would you need to replace Ramsdale? If you wanted, there's obviously options of players who would probably be realistic for Arsenal, but I haven't got any on here. Players who are on the reserves. Smith Rowe, do you look to sell him? Potentially. Marquinhos, probably you keep him. Smith Rowe I recommend keeping as well, but if you needed a little bit extra money to bring someone in who I'm recommending, then feel free to do that. Obviously Reece Nelson, Sambi Lokonga, Rob Holding, they don't quite make it onto the bench. And Nketiah, Vieira, El Neni, Tierney, Turner, Cedric and Tomiyasu are the ones on the bench. You could play Tomiyasu ahead of Ben White if you wanted, but Ben White, obviously, if you're going with realism, that's what I'm thinking of at the moment. Realistic career modes. White is starting over Tomiyasu in most games. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to show you these lists. So this is how these videos are going to work. I'm going to go through the team real quick for a couple of minutes beforehand, and then I'm going to get straight into the signings for you guys. So yeah, hopefully each team will be no longer than 10 minutes. That's what I'm hoping. So hopefully we won't be boring you. But anyway, let's get into the first player. So the first player I'm going to recommend you sign is Max Aarons. Obviously from a recently relegated Norwich City. Is perfectly realistic. it's Arsenal anyway. They're going to be able to get most right backs in the world. 22 years old, 74 rated. I mean, he's a decent fast right back. He's young. He's not particularly tall, which is okay for a right back. You've got acceleration of 81 there, agility of 84. Exactly what you want as a right back. He's a decent crosser of the ball as well. Let's find his crossing. Yeah. Oh, well, 68. It's not the best, but still, you can improve that because he's only 22 years old. So he could be an option if you wanted to maybe replace or keep him on the bench. Or maybe you could play him ahead of Ben White or Tomiyasu if you wanted to go in a different direction there. I've also put on Thomas Estevez. So in the first season, he is actually on loan, so you won't be able to buy him. But real face, 20 years old, 67. What more do you want? He's only going to improve. I reckon after the first couple of seasons, he'll be mid-70s. So definitely one for the future. But you know, he's got decent pace as well. He's just a decent player to have on there. So that's the right backs, and let's go into the centre backs. So for the centre back positions, I'm going to recommend Edmund Tapsoba of Bayer Leverkusen. The Burkina Faso international has been great so far in his career. He's obviously only 23 years old. He's got good stats here. It says we could pick him up for about between 30 and 35 mil, I reckon. So I reckon that's a bargain. If you get him in the first season before he's improved at all, then I reckon that's a pretty decent bargain. And you can rotate between Gabriel, Saliba and Tapsoba for them for the two centre-back spots, unless you wanted to change to a 3 or 5 back, in which case he probably would be starting alongside those two. That's always an option, but I reckon you play it as a 2-back, and he'll get some game time as well. 6'4", it's exactly what you want in the centre-back look. Strength 83, interceptions 82. He's got decent standing tackle and sliding tackle as well. Only going to improve. It's the youth, and that's what Arsenal seem to be investing in at the moment. So it's exactly what you want, and I reckon you could bring him in for a decent price in the first season if you wanted. The next player I'm going to recommend is Pero Hincapié, also of Leverkusen. 6 foot left back. Can also play centre back though, of course. I reckon this could be actually a better option than Tapsoba because he's 20 years old, of course. And he can actually play left back and centre back. So he's 3 years younger, only 2 overall less. And you've got a little bit more flexibility than you do with Tapsoba, but Tapsoba is just the more out-and-out centre-back, and I reckon he'll do a better job. But obviously got decent pace, what you want in a left-back. He's crossing as well. Let's go have a look at that. Oh, his crossing's not great. But if you put a development plan on him and improve the crossing and his attacking work rate, then that'll certainly get better. But you can clearly see he's more of a left-back / centre-back sort of guy, as opposed to the run up the side and cross it in. So he's more of a defensive wide back, but, you know, he's still a great option to bring in. And once again, he's young, and it says you'll be able to pick him up for around 25 to 30 mil. He's got a release clause of 42. If you want to play that, then of course you can get him guaranteed. But why would you consider you can get him for about 25 million? So that's Hincapié. Decent signing, I reckon. Now, if you've been watching our Leeds United career mode, Alan Varela has been a decent signing in that, if you remember rightly. He's 21 years old, 76 overall, definitely one for the future, as most of the players on this list have been, to be honest, so far. He could slide straight in if you wanted. He's a CDM, so Thomas Partey, you could argue, deserves to start over him, but you could throw him in instead of Xhaka if you wanted. But I reckon he's more of a what am I thinking of? I'm more of a substitute. That's the word. So I reckon he's more of a substitute. You look at his acceleration. Midfielders, you don't really need them to be fast. You just need the passing to be good. He's got good stamina. That's what you want in the midfielder as well. His passing is decent. Short passing particularly is already 80 rated. And I mean, you'll be able to put him on corners and stuff if you don't want to have Saka on there and etc. So he's definitely an option. An Argentinian as well. It says you can pick him up for, well, a decent price, I reckon, between 15 and 20 million if you push, or you can pay the release clause of 21 million. So there we go. Decent player there. Now, the next player on our list is another central midfielder, and I don't think you can get much more realistic than this one, to be honest. Ruben Neves, 25 years old, been linked to Arsenal, of course, met for the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think, in real life. He's 84 rated in FIFA 23. Now, that's a very nice rating. He's slot straight into their central midfielder role, ahead of Xhaka, so you'd have a midfield 3 of Partey, Neves, and Odegaard, and that is something that would scare most midfielders who play in the Premier League. So he says you can get him for between 47 and 59. I reckon you'll be able to get him for 50. That's my reckoning. Obviously, he's got a hefty wage, but you're Arsenal. You don't really care about that too much. Look at all them traits. He's got 6 traits. Let's have a look at them. Solid player, leadership, long passer, long shot taker, playmaker, team player. We've seen so far this season that he is capable of taking on some long shots. And he does love doing that. His passing is mainly what you're buying him for. Aggression, composure, interceptions, vision. I mean, he's just such a good passer of the ball, much like Odegaard and Partey as well. They're great passers of the ball. So you'd have a midfield 3 who are not going to put a pass wrong all game, to be honest. Yeah, so I reckon that's a decent signing. That will probably be one of my first signings if I did start an Arsenal career, and I don't think you can get much more realistic than that, to be honest. Next signing I'm going to suggest is Ibrahim Sangare from PSV. Now, you'll be able to pick him up for around between 38 and 48 million. He's not on a high wage, but obviously you want a wage increase because he's joining a Premier League side. So I reckon that's a decent price for someone who's 81 overall and obviously only 24 years old. Ivory Coast, a decent nation to be picking up players from as well. So if you go into his stats in more detail, he's got great composure, great interceptions, stamina as well, which obviously great for a midfielder. He's got 91 strength, which is brilliant. Let's go on to the next bit. Standing tackle is good. Shot power, defensive awareness. So you don't see any reds really at all there, to be honest. No reds, yellow as a minimum, but he's got some solid greens as well. So he's just an all-round great player, and that's exactly what you want as a central midfielder. So I reckon Neves or Sangare is probably your first port of call if you're wanting to reinforce the midfield area. If we move on to wingers, we've got Edon Zegrova. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't have a real face. Neither does Sangare, actually, to be honest. But I mean, if you're keen on real faces, then this probably isn't a signing for you. But if you're not bothered, then I reckon this could be a great signing. Look, he's a right mid. He's 74. I mean, he's a bit like he's similar to Marquinhos. I mean, he's Is it Kosovian international, or what will you say? A Kosovo international, let's say that. He's 23 years old, one for the future, of course. He's got great acceleration, so he's definitely a pacey winger. Could be a backup. If you're not wanting to go with like Smith Rowe or Marquinhos, then this is definitely an option for you. But obviously, I think there's better players on this list that he could go for. But Edon Zegrova, keep your eye out for him. He's only going to be cheap, like 10 mil. You're looking at maximum, I reckon. So if you've got a few funds left, then I reckon this is a decent player you could bring in. And the final player on our list is Pepe. Now, no, this is not Pepe from Porto, the centre-back. This is 25-year-old Pepe, and he's a left mid. Weirdly, he can also play right back. If you wanted to like change him to a right back, then that's perfectly acceptable. 79 overall. This is just a great player. Left mid, if you're wanting to reinforce the wingers area, I reckon it's a better signing than Zegrova, definitely. And Porto, I mean, teams from the Premier League love getting like players from the Portuguese league. You look at Luis Diaz coming from Porto last season to Liverpool, and I mean, if you get Pepe, then that will be a great sign. If we look into the stats, good pace, good agility, stamina as well, run up and down the pitch all day. He's got decent things. I mean, he's got some reds, like he's not great at defending, but this is wingers. You don't expect him to be great at defending. He's good ball control, good dribbling. He's going to be like a Saka, I reckon. Be similar to a Saka as opposed to a Martinelli. Martinelli kind of more of a skillful. Well, I guess he's Brazilian, isn't he? So, you know, maybe because following the footsteps of Gabriel Martinelli. But that's the end of the list, as you can see. What have we got on here? 9 players I've got on here. So it's quite a hefty list. You're not going to sign you're obviously not going to sign all of them in one window. But, you know, it's definitely, you could sign at least 2 or 3 of them in the summer window, maybe one of them in the January window as well. And then I think you've got solid team for the season. Arsenal, it's not a team you need to improve. It's not like one of the relegation candidates like your Bournemouths or your Southamptons. It's not like one where you're going to need to invest heavily. But some clever deals here or there will certainly get you to where you need to be. Maybe even challenging for the title like they are in real life in the first season. But that's just about the end of the video, guys. So if you've enjoyed it, please go down below, smash the like, smash the subscribe. Obviously, this is a new type of video for me. I haven't really done any of these in the past. So if you have enjoyed it, I really do appreciate the support. But until next time, guys, where it'll either be the Leeds career again, or we'll be moving on to the next team, which will be Aston Villa. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one.